CHGO Blackhawks podcast brought to you by PointsBet. Remember to use the promo code CHGO when you sign up to live your bet life. I'm Mario Terabasi, joined by special guest from the Hockey Writers, Gail Kalchik. She's joining us again today as the Blackhawks get a 6-3 win over the Ottawa Senators in Ottawa. A great way to celebrate 3-1-2 day today with a Chicago Blackhawks win. It was a tale of two periods for Chicago tonight. Opening period was probably went as bad as they could have scripted a bad period, and then in the second period things get flipped, and it's it's a much better performance by the Blackhawks from then out. So Gail, first impressions of the game tonight.
Yeah, it really was nice to see them kind of bounce back there. The Connor Murphy situation, I think, really just had them shaken. It was nice to see them bounce back and get a good game. And I think it was Caleb Jones at the end of the game said we wanted to win one for Murphy, and they did. So 6-3 win, nice to see. Good way to start your Saturday night.
Yeah, and Connor Murphy, as far as we understand it, he is okay in medical terms. It was a scary hit about not even just barely 2 minutes into the game. Murphy got hit into the boards by Parker Kelly of the Senators. Kelly given a 5-minute major and a game misconduct. Murphy, an awkward hit, obviously a dirty hit, but this is the second time we've had to see a Blackhawks player stretchered off the ice this season, and in both of those games, the response from Chicago, understandably flat, and the Hawks go on the 5-minute power play after the hit and the injury, and the Senators score shorthanded, and I remember that we were watching the game here, and I turned to you and I go, did they there was almost no it seemed like there was no reaction from the crowd when the Senators scored in Ottawa, and I was like, it's either an empty building or like no one is recovered from what they just saw with Murphy having to get stretchered off the ice. And it's one of those things where it's just like, not only are the Blackhawks a team susceptible to slow starts, but then you get an incident like that, and it's just like you see how much it affects them.
Yeah, and when the puck went into the net, you could just see Fleury I just don't think he was ready. I think they were all flat-footed, and none of them, they were just kind of in shock about the whole thing. So, and it was tough to see everybody kneeling, and thumbs up Connor Murphy gave when he went off the ice, and it's my understanding he's, like I think you just said, he's traveling back along with Tyler Johnson, who left the game as well, traveling back to Chicago. So fingers crossed that that wasn't as bad as it looked, and everybody's going to be okay.
Yeah, and Chicago was already playing with an 11 forward, 7 defenseman lineup tonight, and then you lose Murphy, and then you lose Tyler Johnson at the end of the first period, and it's just like it literally was just like this first period could not have gone any worse. No. And then you also you see the Senators. They get the shorthanded goal. They get a second goal. Kirby Dach gets railroaded, and then Jonathan Toews steps in and says, "Enough's enough," and drops the glove with Zach Sanford. And I wanted to. We'll get into all the good stuff that happened in the game. It's just the opening 20 minutes. We got to shift through it a little bit, but Toews steps in and stands up for Kirby Dach getting run over by Sanford, and I get the reactionary nature of Toews stepping in. It was a big hit. Blackhawks need some momentum, but I would just wish that the Blackhawks had somebody who didn't have the concussion history of Jonathan Toews, willing to step in and drop the gloves when those times call for it.
I think everybody that was watching that game was like, no, God, Jonathan Toews, don't do this. What are you thinking? And of course, he's the captain. This is what he does. And I'm just happy that, and he didn't play. I don't think he played for the rest of the first period.
Yeah. He didn't get a shift at the end of the first period once his fighting major was over.
So I know that we were looking at the bench when they started the second period, and we're like, oh gosh, there he is. And then next thing you know, he scores 2 goals, and that's a much better way to get your revenge, just by scoring 2 goals than picking a fight,
Absolutely.
getting in a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he was able to come back, be okay. It didn't seem like, because he took some punches in that fight, and I remember we were watching the fight as it was happening, and I'm just like watching it through my hands. I'm just like, oh my God, please just go to the ground or something, don't get hurt. And it looked for a split second like he got hit and like was going down, like he got like woozied, and I was like, oh no, like it's just one of those things where it's just like, anybody but Toews right now should be dropping the gloves, and we saw it in the Philadelphia game as well. This last weekend, Toews jumping into the scrums and getting involved physically that way. I fully understand that it's part of the nature of the game. It's very reactionary. Jonathan Toews isn't out there thinking, oh, I have a concussion history, I probably shouldn't fight this guy. He's reacting on his hockey instinct. I get that. I'm the last person to advocate for, guys in the lineup whose sole purpose is to just punch people. But I think I would like to see someone else be able to do that in the Blackhawks lineup, willing to do that, who's not a player who's worth more for their skill than for their fists. And when we saw it in the AHL game with the Ice Hogs and the Milwaukee Admirals last night, Curtis Gabriel, who was acquired by by Derek King's base. Basically, Derek King said, hey, we need someone who can be an enforcer. And Blackhawks ended up going out and getting Curtis Gabriel. And I'm not saying Curtis Gabriel needs to be in the lineup, but they gotta have somebody that can do that.
They do. They need to have somebody that can maybe not even with fighting, but just intimidate and finish your checks and make it so that they're not going to take runs at the and it's funny because I remember when we were talking about it with Toews and he jumped on the guy's back and basically he was defending DeBrincat, and it's like, well, wait, but DeBrincat can defend himself, but then he's like got the he's not the one that we want in a fight either. So so it's a tough call there.
And I think when we talk about going into the rebuild, a lot of the players who are going to be, those valuable pieces moving forward, like an Alex DeBrincat, those are the guys that need to be protected because these are your future assets. And, I think what we're going to see in the rebuild are some players who will probably be Blackhawks for maybe a season, that are going to play that role where it's like, hey, they might be playing for a job, but their main role might be, hey, can you protect Lucas Reichel? Can you protect Alex DeBrincat? Can you protect Brandon Hagel and make sure that these guys who are likely going to be part of, the future down the road in the next 2, 3, 4 years with the Blackhawks, can you make sure that these guys don't get run over?
Don't get hurt because they're going to do it if you don't. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something that, we'll have to look at with the rebuild.
Yeah, something to think about moving forward because this team, just after the trade deadline, this team's going to be a different team. I believe. Who knows?
I mean, we're closing in on 8 days away, and we're still waiting on not just with the Blackhawks, but with the NHL as a whole for the trade deadline to kind of start acting like it's the trade deadline. So yeah, I mean the first period. It was not. It was kind of quintessential Blackhawks. It was just like, man, like, they have these spirited efforts, even in losses, spirited efforts against the Bruins, against the Lightning, like these teams that are top teams. They got the overtime win recently against the Oilers, but then and I was thinking about it earlier today. I was just like, man, They've had these good performances, win or loss, doesn't matter, good performances. And I was thinking about it, I was like, is today shaping up where they're just going to lay an egg against the Senators and it's just going to be a waste of a Saturday night? And after the first 20 minutes, looked like was going to be that. But then
they made it fun.
Yeah, the next 40 minutes were a lot better. As you mentioned, Jonathan Toews came back from in the second period. He was on the bench, sigh of relief, and shortly into the second period, he scores and gets the Blackhawks on the board, cuts the lead in half, and the primary assist coming from Patrick Kane, and that was career point number 1,154 for Kane, surpassing Bobby Hull for the second place on the Blackhawks all-time list. So something you like to see, another milestone for Patrick Kane. Ended up having 3 assists.
Yep, he didn't stop
on
there,
the night. Yeah, he was very much a big part of the win tonight. He's on a 6-game point streak now, and has 9 multi-point games in his last 18 games played. He is on a absolute tear. And I think we look at the top line with Dylan Strome, Alex DeBrincat, and Patrick Kane. All 3 of those guys interchangeably over the last week or so have at different times driven that line. And Kane has been, to see what he's doing at this point in his career, it's pretty impressive with the games that he's played and what he's able to still do.
Absolutely. And I know that you had mentioned, I think you tweeted it out on Tuesday, I want to say, that if that line of DeBrincat, Kane, and Strome is going to be your top line next season, then nothing to complain about, right? So, is Strome going to stay? Will they be that top line? And to a certain extent, I think that the more elite teams will figure out how to shut them down, and this could be a problem moving forward. But they held their own against the Bruins. I don't think they allowed a goal against the Bergeron line they were up against. Mm-hmm. And I remember when they were first put together, I don't know, was that 3 or 4 years back? They're a little bit different now. DeBrincat and Strome are a lot more effective defensively and more responsible there. And that was kind of the reason that they got taken away, because it was from that, because it was kind of a run and gun. But then next thing you know, they're letting away chances on the other end, and it's not that anymore. So it is kind of cool to see them grow and have so much chemistry together. So we'll see if they end up being a line together.
Yeah, because
moving forward.
Because if that's your top line, I'm very okay with it, because I think Patrick Kane is still a valuable player, obviously, yes, to have around the team. He controls his future. If he doesn't want to go anywhere, he won't be going anywhere. And I think, you look at his play, and he's definitely still playing up to his current contract value. Can he continue it for another 4 or 5 years until the team is contending again? You'd like to hope so. Yeah. You'd like to hope so. And I think if he can stay healthy, there's a good chance he could do that. I think it's very, very obvious Alex DeBrincat is part of the future in the Blackhawks. I don't think. Yes, he would get an amazing haul in the trade market, but I think he's one of those players that you look at and you're just like, even if it's 3 or 4 years down the road that the Blackhawks are going to be competitive again and contending for a cup again, I still think Alex DeBrincat is part of that. Part of what makes that team competitive and makes them contenders. So I think he'll be sticking around. And I think Dylan Strome is clearly made a statement this season that when he's put in the right positions to succeed, he can be an effective player. And I think he's a good kind of transitional centerman for the Blackhawks, that they don't really have that depth at that position that you can look at and say, oh, this is the next guy. This is the next guy behind him. This next guy. Outside of Lucas Reichel, they really don't have anybody who's going to be a top centerman. I think Kirby Dach his future is probably not down the middle. So I think if that's your top line next season after that, I'm not really mad about that. And I don't think we're looking at that line to lead them to the cup. Like you said, like they're probably. When it gets to crunch time, when it gets to playoff hockey time, that's not a line that you really look at as, the line that you can put out against anybody. I think that's a line that could eventually, especially in the playoffs when the big teams have success. The teams that can play with edge have success.
Yeah,
those are not the most physical guys. So, but again, that line's goal is to. Is not necessarily is not necessarily to be effective in the postseason. So so we'll see what happens with the future there. I think ultimately Dylan Strome stays in Chicago beyond the 21st, and I think he'll get a decent he'll at least get his qualifying offer. I think he's very much worth it now. I think we've been seeing that. So yeah, it was a big game for Patrick Kane. He drove that line tonight, and those guys were we look at the time on ice after the game. Dylan Strome, Patrick Kane, and Alex DeBrincat were the top 3 forwards in ice time. 25 minutes and change for DeBrincat, 24 minutes and change for both Patrick Kane and Dylan Strome. That's kind of been the MO of that line. This last 2 weeks, we've been seeing that line really getting a lot of use, a lot of run, a lot of results. But I think beyond having that chemistry and saying like, okay, like these are the guys that are making us go, at a point where wins and losses may not matter to some, I think they matter to Derek King.
Yeah,
because he's a guy who's looking for. Maybe I can build up my resume a little bit here in the last couple of weeks and try and stick around and get this interim tag lifted.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. And he's leaning on his stars, and I'd like to see him back. I don't know about head coach, but gosh, I sure think that Chicago could offer him something. He'd be a really awesome assistant coach, or maybe even head coach. Who knows, with the right people around him. But I think that King has really endeared himself to the organization, to the fans, to the players. He's really been integral in kind of turning things around and making hockey fun again for Chicago.
Yeah, and I think it would. I mean, it's not uncommon. It's happened before, but I think it would be weird to see a guy go from head coach to assistant coach, especially when. You've seen the results that Blackhawks have had this season after the coaching change. I mean, Derek King has got something out of these guys that Jeremy Colleton had no success in doing.
No clue.
So I think, we've talked about it before. Derek King seems like the perfect coach for a rebuilding team because you're not really looking for the wins and losses. You're looking for the development of the next wave of players coming through. And, with his work with the Ice Hogs in the last few seasons, he's familiar with a lot of the younger players that are going to be coming through, at the end of this season, going into next season. It's not a time for the Blackhawks to really look for their next contending coach. And Derek King, for all the good things we can say, he's not perfect. He's not a perfect X's and O's guy. This is his first time getting an NHL head coaching opportunity, so there's obviously still going to be a learning curve for him. But I think there's going to be a head coaching search this offseason. Whether or not it is marketed as being as extensive and thinking outside the box as the GM search was. Oh, and then we hire the in-house guy.
Yeah. If
they're going to stick with the in-house guy for their head coaching position, just go out and say, hey, we're keeping Derek King around. Don't say, oh, we're bringing in this person and we're bringing in this person, we're bringing in this person. Oh, and we're going to keep Derek King. Don't waste our time.
Never a dull moment though, right? I mean, all these things for us to talk about and all these changes.
And we're 8 days away from the trade deadline, and we have the same exact lineup that we've been looking at all season.
It's going to happen, Mario. You won't be able to keep up for a couple days straight.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, we're lining up for the March 21st trade deadline show pretty nicely here because we're just 8 days away from that. And
3 more games.
We're looking at the Blackhawks have had a very condensed week. So especially with traveling, it's not really optimal to be making trades while you're on the road or while you're playing game after game after game. So we have some space between games now where it's like going to need to keep your phone handy because it might, something might pop up at a moment's notice. So that March 21st show that we're lining up here with the CHGO Blackhawks podcast, that's going to be a doozy, and it might end up being a frenzy of a day. So it'll be something to behold. Yeah. The best way to support the CHGO Blackhawks podcast and CHGO Sports is by downloading the PointsBet app. I had a number of bets out in today's game, and I as the saying goes, you win some, you lose some. I went 2-2 bets on today's Blackhawks game, but the most important one was the Blackhawks on the money line, so I got that one. So when you sign up with PointsBet, use the promo code CHGO, and if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content, and you'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, be sure to email pointsbet@allchgo.com, and we'll be happy to help you. Remember that PointsBet is your home for live in-game betting. They even have a new feature exclusive to PointsBet with live same-game NBA parlays. For the first time ever, build the perfect live same-game parlay only with PointsBet. You can even boost your live same-game parlays with PointsBet. And now available, online sign-up is open in Illinois. You can download the PointsBet app right now and register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. Remember, use the promo code CHGO, and you get 2 risk-free bets for up to $2,000. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. It was 50-50 today for me on the PointsBet app. I had the Blackhawks on the money line. I got that one. Had Jonathan Toews to get a point. Got that and then some. But with Patrick Kane rolling, Dylan Strome got a goal. Unfortunately, I bet on Alex DeBrincat to get a point tonight, and that did not come through.
That's a pretty darn good bet. So
I thought it was.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, and I was just like, you know what? I'm rolling with at least Alex DeBrincat to keep his point streak going, and it ended up being his other 2 line mates that kept their point streaks
going. Kind of a
going.
Surprise that he didn't get an assist or something, right?
Yeah, it was a night to fill up the score sheet. The other one I lost, I had Brady Tkachuk to get a point for the Senators. That didn't happen. So I guess that's good.
50-50.
I guess that's good. I mean, the Blackhawks won. I mean, that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, it was a night to fill up the score sheet, and someone who did that tonight, getting a multi-goal effort from Caleb Jones. Yeah. Not Seth Jones, the higher paid of the two, the one who hasn't scored a goal since December. Yeah. No, it was Caleb Jones getting 2 goals tonight. He got the third goal in the second period to give the Blackhawks the lead at the 3-2 point of the second period, and ended up getting another goal in the third period to make it 5-3 at that point. So it was actually a pretty historic night for the Jones brothers. The first goal from Caleb was assisted by Seth, and that is the first time that those two have actually connected on a goal together. Pretty impressive for the Jones brothers tonight.
It's also Blackhawks siblings first to factor into the same goal since Rich and Brent Sutter in February of 1994.
1994.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, but yeah, it was pretty fun to see Seth and Caleb connecting tonight. I know the talk around Seth Jones has been, he's not scoring, he's not playing well and everything, but it's just I understand the animosity towards Seth Jones because of the way he came to the team, because of the way he's going to stay with the team. He's been pretty much as advertised prior to what we saw from him last season. Like, he's not the Norris candidate Seth Jones anymore, but he's still a number one defenseman in the league.
And I think that people, when they look at a defenseman that's going to play and make that much money, they want him to be more two-way offense and defense. And I think that that's really where he's getting hit this season, is that, he's only got 3 goals. Caleb, his brother, just scored 4 goals now on the season. So his little brother is beating him. And 3 goals. That he actually talked to the media this morning and was talking about how, he's really frustrated. And with only having 3 goals, and you you saw him shoot the puck a little bit more this game as well. So I think that that's a kind of a goal of his. But don't let up on the defensive end either, because let's face it, the Blackhawks need all the help they can in that respect, and he's underappreciated, I think, for the value that he has on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think his defensive game is obviously something that has been a bit of an issue in the past, but I think he gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
I don't think he's the next coming of Bobby Orr, but I think he's going to be his contract is going to make him pretty much unmovable once his extension kicks in. But I think he's still going to be serviceable as a number one defenseman for the Blackhawks for a number of years.
Not 8 though.
Probably likely not.
Those
8.
last couple, 2, 3, 4 years could be rough.
Well, I mean, and that's you can't be worrying about those years.
I guess
now. You got to worry about what's in the short term future coming up here. But yeah, I think tonight we saw him kind of, even though the goal scoring is something that he wants to be more involved with and have go right for him. I think we all would like that. It was good to see him, get involved and be active. It was, we saw it tonight. He got a assist on the first goal from his brother, and he also got an assist on the Dylan Strome goal in the third period. Yep. He was active tonight. 3 shots on goal, got 2 assists. So I mean, it's good to see him continue to be that top defenseman that the Blackhawks were pretty much missing for the last few seasons. I know Duncan Keith was playing that role, but it was kind of
right.
He was kind of forced to play that role because they didn't have anyone else who could fill it.
Exactly. He wasn't really the same caliber anymore. But like you said, they didn't have anyone else. So by default, he kind of still was that person. So yeah, Seth Jones is an upgrade in that respect. Mm-hmm. And we'll see how long he can keep it up.
Yeah. So Caleb Jones, 2 goals tonight. He now has 4 on the season. That ties him with Connor Murphy for the team lead in goals by defensemen with 4. It's not a lot. What's going on, Jake?
All right, so how about this? Pretty cool moment for brothers tonight, right?
Yes.
So coolest moment you've ever had with a sibling?
Oh my gosh.
Anything that comes to mind?
Putting me on this.
Or like recent, like a cool moment?
Putting me on the spot. Well, I guess my sister and I both welcomed our first child into our family 5 days apart. So that's it was a big week for our family. So I would say most recently that was pretty cool moment. Yeah.
Sibling moment, huh? Okay, well, my brother is actually 8 years younger than me, and we were never really close. But at my wedding, we just had a really good time. It was nice to have him there. How's that? That's not hockey related, but hey, neither one of them
works.
That works. It's always good. Get to know your host a little better.
Yeah. I think that's good. That's good on the spot questioning there from producer Jake there. But yeah, we mentioned Dylan Strome getting on the board late in the third period. He gets his point streak continues, moves to 6 games. He's got 11 points in his last 6 games. When you're hot, you're hot.
Yeah.
And I think this week has really put the exclamation point on why we need to look at Dylan Strome as a player to invest in.
He's hopping on the ride.
Dylan Dylan Strome is pretty much the conductor right now.
Yeah.
Hopping on the ride there. So let's on that note, let's get to our CHGO fourth stars of the game. The Blackhawks had a clean sweep of the 3 stars nominations tonight in the game. Patrick Kane, Caleb Jones, and Jonathan Toews were named the 3 stars of the game. But since this is Chicago, this is the CHGO fourth star. If you're unfamiliar, it's because the flag has 4 stars. Get that connection? Pretty clever by us here. But we'll nominate the fourth star of the game. Speaking of Dylan Strome, my nominee tonight is, unsurprisingly, Dylan Strome.
Have you never not picked Dylan Strome so far?
I picked Sam Lafferty once, but Dylan Strome has been mentioned in each of our post-game podcasts as either Greg or my own nominee, but we're going to keep that streak going. As he kept his going. He had 4 shots on goal, very active night. Like we mentioned before, 24 minutes of ice time, and he gets his 16th goal of the season. So my nominee is Dylan Strome tonight. Gail, what you got?
All right. Well, we already talked about him a bunch. I think I'm going to go with Seth Jones. Again, the 2 assists, they were both primary. 2 shots on goal or 3, something. You know, he's obviously again
3 shots.
Trying. I think we're going to see him with more shots on goal and more chances on the power play. I think we're going to see he might go on a little run here at the end. Get more than those 3 shots on goal or 3 goals for the season. 18 minutes. You know, I just, again, I think we rely on him and he gets taken for granted. So I am not going to take him for granted tonight. And I'm naming him our 4th star.
Yeah. And we saw, you know, in the lead up to today's game, like you mentioned before, Seth Jones himself is not satisfied with his output and what he's been doing offensively. Derek King even came out and said, you know, we want him shooting more, being more active, you know, on the power play, being able to be, you know, more effective in that respect. And I think we saw a clear, you know, message received tonight from Jones being able to, you know, be active in the offensive zone, put shots on net. It's never a bad idea to shoot the puck towards the net, right? Something can happen, and like we saw that in the third period, Dylan Strome, you know, tips Jones a shot, and you know, Blackhawks add to the lead. So
yeah, that was a nice shot, and then you know, Strome just kind of deflected it in. So that's the idea, right? That's what we want,
right? So between those two. Who we gonna go with? I really feel like my Strome pick is more of a cumulative pick for the way that he's been playing these last couple of games, and I really just want to keep that Dylan Strome train going in the 4th star little nominees that we have here. You got any more defense of Seth Jones from tonight?
No. I think I can give you Strome. Yes. Right? I mean, he scored a goal. He like you said, but at some point, we're going to have to get off the Strome train here.
Hey, you know what? If Dylan Strome continues to have nights where we can
1, 2, and 3 star, we won't be able to pick him, right?
If he can continue to have nights where he's continuously being picked for our 4th star of the night, I'm not going to complain about that because that means he's playing effective, and that means that he's making his making an impact in the lineup at a point where you know he's making his case to stick around. So Dylan Strome, the CHGO 4th star of the night for I believe the 3rd time.
Again,
his closet is getting pretty full with those free shirts we're going to be sending him.
Yeah.
But hopefully he enjoys them. And if you enjoy the CHGO Blackhawks podcast, if you enjoy any of the CHGO podcasts, whether it's White Sox, Cubs, Bears, we got a Chicago Sky podcast coming. I mean, we got everything covered here at CHGO. You can support us with getting some of those CHGO branded shirts. We got the ones with the CHGO Chicago flag. We got the ones all branded from the podcast. If you like the logo there on your screen with the CHGO Blackhawks logo, got a nice red T-shirt with that logo on it. I'm pretty. I do like the White Sox CHGO White Sox cute, logo with the angry sock.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where else are you gonna find that? I think that's pretty. It's pretty good. And you know what? It's funny. I was looking through all the logos when we were launching, and I was just like, I really that angry face on the sock just like really put it over the top. And then I saw the Bears one, and I was like, oh, even Clark the Bear is angry. Like, man, we got some intensity here in CHGO. And then I'm gonna pick on my wife a little bit here. She goes, oh, why isn't the Blackhawks logo for CHGO angry? And I'm like, oh, they're just sticks. And we had a pretty good laugh. It was just something. It was
well, I have to say though, that is a pretty sweet logo for the Blackhawks. Yeah. I like it.
Shout out to Eric, who designed all the logos nice. For our CHGO podcasts and branding and our dope merch. So yeah, if you want to support CHGO in any other way, you can go to allchgo.com and you can find our merchandise there, find those shirts, and you can order yours today. You're going to be looking pretty nice around the city. So Dylan Strom, he's got 3 free shirts going his way now this week. Man, his mailbox can be filling up pretty quick.
He needs to be a guest speaker.
Yeah. Hey, Dylan, if you're watching, I'd love to have you on the show. I think he's a little busy right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be pretty sweet. As we get to the trade deadline, one of the biggest names that the Blackhawks have on the trade block, we think, is Marc-Andre Fleury. What we don't know is his trade status. He has a 10-team no-trade clause. He has an agreement to the previous front office that said, hey, I don't want to be traded if I don't have to be. And the Blackhawks might or might not honor that. I wrote about it on allchgo.com. The Blackhawks are going to miss a major opportunity to start the rebuild off on the right foot if they do not trade Marc-Andre Fleury at the deadline. We talked about it on the last podcast a little bit, but Gail, where do you stand on Marc-Andre Fleury and his future with the team?
That's really a tough one. It really is, because you don't want to just uproot him. I talked about that the last time I was here this past Sunday, I think, where you but I do get where you're coming from in that he's the biggest trade piece, and, maybe you should be sitting down with him and saying, hey, come on, go to Contender for us, help us out here. Mm-hmm. You can leave your family here, come back. I don't know, maybe if you sign us for a deal to, who knows? But you're absolutely right. That would, and the rebuild is not going to just happen at this trade deadline. Let's remember that too. Right. I mean, it's just the beginning. There's the off season. And I think it was Kyle Davidson that was saying, I can only give or take what's been given to me. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, he's under the impression that the Blackhawks can't set the market at the trade deadline, but with Marc-Andre Fleury, you can at least at the goaltender position. And I'm not saying go out and make a trade just to do it, but I think when you're looking at a guy like Fleury, of his stature, of what he can bring to a contending team, and we've seen contending teams that need goaltending help. I think it's a mistake to hold on to him. But he's not really doing the Blackhawks any favors.
He's tanking on purpose because he doesn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah. In his last 6 games, Fleury has allowed at least 3 goals in each of those games, and his save percentages from the last 6 games have been .870, .886, .906, .813, .906, and then tonight .870 again.
That's not your typical Flower there. Nope.
No, it's been beneficial for the Blackhawks that they've been able to, kind of find some offensive power in the last couple of games, because it's bailed Fleury out as much as he's bailed out the team at different points this season. So, he's not making it easy for the Blackhawks to trade him right now, given his current play. But I think, the goaltending position is a funny one. It's probably one of the most difficult in not only in hockey but in any sport. And with the ebbs and flows of the position with the players, the goaltenders in the league, it's rare that you're going to see a guy, have an entire season where he's mistake free or he's just, an absolutely, a brick wall or anything like that. But for Fleury, it's coming at the wrong time.
It sure is. It's a really bad timing.
And it's, you look at some of the teams that have a need for an upgrade at goaltender or a need for just even a starting goaltender. You look at Toronto, you look at Colorado, even though they really don't have the assets to make a deal, they still could be someone that, it's the salary cap is fake money.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of different ways to kind of finagle a deal. And Colorado, they might be at a point where, they just lost Gabriel Landeskog for the rest of the season with knee surgery.
Yeah.
So, you're looking at that team if they really want to contend, they might be now in a market to replace Landeskog, at the forward position. But an upgrade at goaltender could still be on the table. Toronto needs goaltending help. They have Jack Campbell injured. That's going to be more of a short-term injury, but is he going to be able to bounce back and of course be a starter?
We don't know anything about any of these rumors either, but I had heard too that maybe Marc-Andre Fleury might not want to go to Toronto, or does anybody really want to be over in Canada right now? So, with the restrictions and across the borders and all that. So who knows?
Yeah. I saw the report from Pierre LeBrun of the Athletic that, it's kind of understood that Toronto is either part of his 10-team no trade list or has been expressed that he doesn't want to go there.
Yeah.
So that obviously is a roadblock to trading him to a contender like the Maple Leafs. But it's again, we're 8 days away from the trade deadline.
We don't have long to wait.
We're gonna find out in the next week one way or the other.
Yes.
But I think and you mentioned it too. The possibility of trading Fleury, but then saying, you can come back in the summer. Like it might just be a short stint where, you're away from your family or whatnot and keeping them in Chicago. And then you come back next season. Then you get into, okay, what does the contract look like for Marc-Andre Fleury next season? Because you have Seth Jones's extension kicking in. I know you're probably going to get rid of Calvin DeHaan's cap hit one way or another, either at the trade deadline or if he's not traded, but again, that wouldn't make sense. But either at the trade deadline or coming off the books in the summer, I think the goaltending position, we're not looking for the Blackhawks to have to, be at the cap ceiling, but the goaltending position shouldn't be where they're spending their money.
Well, especially during a rebuild, you don't want to be spending giving Marc-Andre Fleury a whole lot of money when really what you're trying to do is develop your other goaltenders. I mean, that's just something that Derek King mentioned the other day, that they're not really being fair to Lincoln, and they're really trying to get Kevin Lincoln, and they're really trying to get him to have back-to-back games to get some kind of a rhythm. I mean, and he didn't play all that great the other night against the Bruins, but gave up a lot of rebounds, but he hasn't really had a chance to get in any kind of groove. And
when he's been in, you haven't seen anything of, the performances that he had last season, where he kind of looked like, maybe he can be a starter in the league.
Because he was playing every night or he was playing a lot. I think he got a little bit burnt out there towards the end, which is where, he's probably not ready to be your number one guy yet. Where somebody like Marc-Andre Fleury, if he could mentor him or maybe not play as much, but he would have to understand that. And why would he really want to do that? Why would he want to spend the last year of his, it sounds like he says he wants to play at least one more year. Why would he want to spend the tail end of his career, not playing a whole lot and for a pay cut and with a rebuilding team.
Right. It doesn't really fit.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense for Fleury, who's, what more does he really have to accomplish in his career? To prove? Not much, but I mean, he's a competitor. We see it in practice. Yeah. He doesn't like giving up goals, even just in practice. So he's a guy that wants to win. He said if he does leave Chicago this season, he wants to go somewhere where he thinks he can win. So it doesn't really bode well for him or for the Blackhawks to come back next season, because it's not going to be a contending team.
Yeah.
You're going to have a young roster mixed in with some of the new core pieces, and then some players that probably are just going to stick around for half of a season and then get flipped at next year's deadline anyway. So, yeah, I think Fleury's future probably shouldn't
be in Chicago,
be beyond the next 8 days, but I think I'm getting the sense now, after having, thought about it for a few days, I'm getting the sense now where I'm feeling like, at the end of the day on the 21st, Fleury's, I get a sense that he's going to be still with the Blackhawks.
I get that feeling too.
I think it comes from, Kyle Davidson's getting a short window to make his stamp as GM. And I get the feeling from Kyle Davidson, who he seems to be as a person, who he seems to be as a GM in his philosophy. I don't get the sense that he's coming in, kicking down doors and saying, it's pounding his fist and saying, here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to do that. It really seems like he's coming in, and it's kind of just going to be like, oh, well, we'll feel it out. We'll see what happens. And I get the sense that we're going to come to the trade deadline day and Fleury's going to stick around, and, we might just be hanging the start of the rebuild on moving guys like Dominic Kubalik and Calvin DeHaan.
Dominic Kubalik and Calvin DeHaan. That's what I was just going to say. If you ask me who I'm pretty sure is not going to be around after the 21st, those would be the two names. And everybody else is just kind of up in the air. And like you said about Kyle Davidson, yeah, I think he has a plan, and I think that he has some good thoughts, but I don't know that we're going to see it all right away. And like I said, this is just the beginning. Probably more moves in the off season.
Yeah, the rebuild isn't going to be started and finished in the next week. But I think it's going to. You really want to get it started on the right foot. And I think if you go into this trade deadline and if you come away from it with, we moved Calvin DeHaan for a 3rd-round pick, or we moved Dominic Kubalik for a 4th-round pick, it's not gonna. You're not really grabbing people's attention and saying, hey, we're trying to get people to hop on the ride, but we're not. I mean, who wants to hop on the ride with a bunch of mid-round picks that may or may not be worth anything?
Yeah.
I know it's not really.
But Lucas Reichel, we got him.
Yeah, which
Come on.
is fine. He's a good player. He's
saying that tongue in cheek, but yeah, I'm excited about him. Don't.
Yeah, there's reason to be excited about him, for sure. I mean, if you've been paying attention to what he's been doing in the AHL this season, as a 19-year-old, he's one of the best rookies in the league,
dominating.
He's having a tremendous season, leading the Ice Hogs. We've seen a few games of him in the NHL. I think we're going to see a couple more as we get to the tail end of the season here. I don't think they're going to play him more than the 9-game limit.
He's at 5 now, right? So they got four more left.
Yeah,
I think we'll see him for 4 more games. I do. Who knows when? But after the 21st. But
yeah, I think he'll hop in. He'll get a few more games, and Derek King knows the value of having players, develop in the AHL. He was with the Ice Hogs for a number of years as head coach and assistant coach. He was an assistant coach with with Toronto in their minor league system for a few years before that. So he knows the value of having your young players play in those leagues, play in those games, and develop on the long trajectory. And the Ice Hogs, they're in a playoff chase. So
they're in fourth place now.
Yeah, they're
a couple wins
based on points percentage, which the AHL does because they're a little screwy.
The AHL.
But they're currently in a playoff position in the AHL Central Division. So they're playing meaningful games in Rockford, and that's going to be a lot of valuable experience. So. For a player like Reichel playing in those games, that's going to be, best for him in his development in his rookie year. Hopefully, playing in some playoff games will be in his future.
Too. And that would be great for him and great for all those defensive prospects down there to get that playoff experience. So I'm rooting for that and hoping that happens because that's only good for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, exactly.
In the long run.
In the long run, and I mean it's good for the Ice Hogs too. I mean they've that's a market and a team that has served the Blackhawks pretty well over the last couple of years. We saw the investment that the team made. Purchasing the team, getting control of the Ice Hogs, and putting the money into the renovations in the arena. Putting the money into the renovation of, the BMO Harris Bank Center. It's underway now, so it's good. It's good to see that the Blackhawks are making the investment not only in the team but also in the players and making that relationship strong because
the commitment.
I think I think it was a foreshadowing move to be like, okay, we might be needing these guys that are coming up through the minor league system, these young players, we might be needing them to feel like we care about them because they're going to be important in the next couple of years. So I think we're seeing that start up, and I think we're going to see some of those young guys cycle through.
Yeah.
And it'll be good. It'll be awesome to see if the Ice Hogs can get into the playoffs, and we can talk about some AHL playoff games. What you got, Jake? Nice.
Maybe they disagree and feel like Reichel's not learning squat in the AHL, just trying to keep his head attached down there. What would be
interesting
the counterpoint to that, based on just playoff opportunity and just the success down there for you?
Well, I mean, yes, as a 19-year-old playing in the AHL, you got to be able to have your head on a swivel there because that's Reichel is an interesting prospect to me because he's not the average 19-year-old. He was drafted out of Germany. He played 2 seasons in the German professional league. So he as a 17-year-old, as an 18-year-old, he was playing against men in the German league. So it's not like he's a 19-year-old who's only been playing against 16, 17, 18-year-olds coming in here. He's played against some of the big boys, especially this season in the AHL. He's that's a tough league. A lot of times people even say like that league is harder, physically tougher than the NHL because you got all these guys that are trying to make their way up to the big leagues.
Well, and Reichel in that other league, in the European league or in German. Mm-hmm. He played wing, but then they had him playing center. I think the last season that he was there, and then he comes over here, and you want to get used to the smaller ice size.
And he's still playing center. He's centering the top line for the Ice Hogs. So it's, a lot of times what we see with some of those players, especially younger guys, they play center, they play wing,
and then it doesn't work out in another league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes they have to transition out and end up, playing wing. I know that happened with Alex DeBrincat. He was playing center for parts of his junior seasons, and he's
no wonder he wins all those faceoffs when they throw him in there.
Yeah, every now and then.
He always wins his faceoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he played center for some of his time in juniors. Obviously, he's made a living as a wing, but I think Reichel is developing well. I would love to see him play in as many meaningful games with the Ice Hogs as possible and get him ready for next season because I think next season is going to be, he's going to be full go in the NHL, and I think what we've seen in the small sample size from him so far is that he can skate at the NHL level. He's got some, creativity to his game. He's got, some good hockey sense for a 19-year-old.
He's very poised too. I mean, he doesn't seem all flustered or anything. He just kind of takes it all in stride and does a good job.
Yeah, he's definitely a prospect to be excited about. You mentioned it earlier too with the Ice Hogs and their group of defensemen. They are just stacked with young defensemen who probably should be knocking on the door of NHL ice time as the rest of the season goes on.
And it'll be exciting to see who comes through because they've got 4 or 5 guys down there. Who's going to come through and who's going to end up being kind of the regulars next year during the rebuild. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, we got a comment here from Madeline as well. Jake, I can't read it on the screen. I think I need glasses.
She says, I'm glad we're being more diligent and careful with prospects. So I think it's kind of
Yeah.
two sides of that coin.
That's the other thing too, is with Reichel's development. I think at a different time in Blackhawks history, he might have been up here already for a full season, whether he was ready for it or not. So yeah, I think that's going to be important for the next phase of the front office as we see with Kyle Davidson. I think development is going to be different. Development and scouting is going to be different. He's already kicked out Mark Kelly. And I think, Brian Campbell, who was brought in as a development coach, he's kind of been Kyle Davidson's best friend for a while.
Yeah, have they named him anything major yet?
No.
Which we're kind of waiting for that to happen, I think, because everybody's kind of expecting him to get some kind of promotion or a bigger title.
He'll end up in some sort of advisory role.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens there. But I think, with Kyle Davidson and Brian Campbell being in the mix, I think he's probably got a little bit of an eye for development and probably is helping guide Kyle Davidson and say, hey, take your time with some of these guys, because it's an extended period. You can't. Yeah. This isn't going to be Stan Bowman saying, oh, we're having a youth movement, and then Philip Kershev looks a little bit good last season. Oh, Adam Boquist looks like he's taking a turn. Okay, we're flipping the switch and we're saying, hey, we're going to get Seth Jones, we're going to get Jake McKay, we're going to get Marc-Andre Fleury. We're good to go. That's not going to be the case anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, the future looks bright.
The future looks bright. Hop on the ride.
I want to believe that the future looks bright. I think, when you look at the Ice Hogs, there's a lot of good things going on. I think over the next couple of games, we might end up seeing some funky lineup decisions over these last couple of games before the trade deadline, like we saw tonight.
Yeah.
11
forwards, 7 defensemen, which ended up being good in the end.
It ended up kind of being okay defensively, but yeah, it was Alec Regula and Philip Kershev were among the scratches tonight. When we first saw the lineup come out, I was like, why are you scratching those guys? And I'm like, you know what? They probably had to get Gustafsson into the lineup somehow, because if you can get anything for him in a trade, you should do it. I think they're just trying to showcase some of their pieces. Dominic Kubalik, you take out, you keep a guy like Henrik Borgstrom out of the lineup. You take out a Philip Kershev. I think you try and give Dominic Kubalik some more opportunities. But he's not going to do anything with those opportunities, but
I guess they just gave up on Borgstrom, right? Because we thought that they were showcasing Borgstrom.
Yeah.
I think he played 2 or 3 games, and now he's scratched. So,
what an absolutely useless player! You have an opportunity to showcase some of these players that you're thinking you might trade, and you're showcasing Eric Gustafsson in a lineup with 7 defensemen over dressing Henrik Borgstrom. What an absolutely useless player. And the worst part of it is he's going to be back next season. I do not understand.
Oh, Borgstrom or
yeah. Isn't he?
Right. He's
signed to next season. They've given up on
traded him, so yeah, okay.
I'm not making that up, right? Yeah, he signed to next season. $1 million wasted.
Well, at least it's small cap.
I don't want to end today's episode getting my blood boiling here, but
I think we are.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't know what value he has. Yeah,
who knows?
He's going to stay up in the press box, I think, for a couple more games as they try and showcase some more of their tradable players.
At least they got rid of Alex Nylander and we gained Sam Lafferty. So that was a good one.
Sam Lafferty got his third goal tonight. Was the official game winner. So hey, Kyle Davidson. One of his first moves was a good one. Was getting rid of Alex Nylander. One of the many reclamation projects under the Stan Bowman era, and one of the many that didn't work out. And Sam Lafferty, I mean, he's a young-ish guy,
and he scored again tonight.
He scored again tonight. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of speed. He's an effort guy.
27, I think he is. He had his birthday last week.
That's true. Yeah, 27. So young-ish. Cheap, and he's one of those guys that you can sign to a 1-year deal for next season, have him around, have him be someone that you can throw into the lineup, and you know what you're going to get with him. You're going to get speed, effort, energy, and a guy who probably can't score all that much. But he got one tonight, so good for Sam. Yeah, that's what you want to see. You want to see guys who are going to be able to play those roles and give the Blackhawks some energy without having to have Jonathan Toews drop the gloves and fight someone. So if Sam Lafferty's GAF meter can run high and Toews can keep his gloves on, that's all the better.
Yeah.
So I think that'll do it for tonight. Blackhawks winners 6-3 over the Senators. What you got, Gil?
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to say one last thing. I just want to thank Greg for being a good guy, because he had a previous commitment with a fundraiser in a church. So good for him for being good, Greg, and it gave me a chance to be on. I also want to thank Jay Zawalski for going on vacation for 2 weeks. And 100th birthday, happy birthday, Grandma Cookie. I want to thank Jay for being giving me a chance to be here. This has been really fun to be a guest. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been awesome having you on, and I'm sure we'll have you on another time or two down the road. So for Gail Kochik, I'm Mario Terabasi. This has been the CHGO Blackhawks podcast, and we will see you the next time.